So, abstracts. I wanted to just point out for those of you who are writing a creative thesis, I know there are several of you who are not, but those of you who are, the abstract is a requirement. So I don't think I mentioned that either in the synchronous class yesterday, and I didn't make that explicitly clear in the writing prompt for this week, but that the abstract is actually a component of your thesis. So you all will be using this at a later date. So it's not just a busy work assignment. For those of you who are not writing a thesis, the abstract, as I mentioned, can be really useful for writing query letters and also just practice for describing your book in the written form. So for the thesis formatting suggestions and requirements for the graduates of May 2021, the abstract, as described by those who wrote the thesis formatting guidelines, should not exceed 350 words. So short and sweet, compact, strong, well edited. And all of these formatting guidelines are available in the, there's a document that if you need me to help you find it again, it's on the Commons, but it's called MFA-WP Thesis Formatting Guidelines, May 2021 graduation. So it describes the abstract there. There's also some examples. I won't go into too much detail about it here because it's all available to you, but that is just to say that the abstract will be part of your thesis. And switching gears a little bit in terms of still talking about the abstract, but not just the VCFA, MFA, writing and publishing requirements, but thinking about Chicago Manual of Style. So if many of you mentioned yesterday that you might be considering trying to write this as more of an academic essay, possibly to be submitted either for PhD applications or job applications, many of which require writing samples for teaching, for example, or editing jobs, that they most likely would be following the Chicago Manual of Style or MLA formatting. So in terms of abstracts, here's what the Chicago Manual of Style suggests: that the book abstract or manuscript abstract should provide a clear idea of the main arguments and conclusions of your book, while chapter abstracts should give an overview of the content of each chapter, including the introduction and conclusion. So if you're writing a query letter, generally you would combine those two. You would have both an abstract about the overall manuscript and then in detail some of the overview of a sample chapter. So many PhD and job applications would require you to give both the description abstract and also a sample of your manuscript of, it depends, 10 pages, 15 pages. And then some would also include the requirement of a critical essay, such as the one that you would be writing for this class. So to get back to the abstract, this should include, it should be no more than 250 words. So there's a little bit of leeway, I think, in terms of doing your research about your audience. So if your application or wherever you are sending this critical essay, if they require a certain page length, pay attention. If they require a word count, pay attention. And they will usually give you very specific formatting instructions. So 12-point font, Times New Roman, etc. But in general, the abstract should be about 250 to 350. So Chicago Manual of Style is 250 maximum. VCFA is 350 maximum. For my class, you can go a little over that word count and then pare it down for their final submission. So I wouldn't mind if your abstracts are a little longer, and then I'll just make a note of it and encourage you to try to trim and be concise in your revisions. Chapter abstracts, so if you're just describing an excerpt, should be no more than 200 words. Chicago Manual of Style tends to favor impersonal voice rather than personal pronouns. So for academic papers and critical papers, not necessarily the ones for this class, but if you are looking into applying to a PhD program or an academic job in teaching, for example, you might say, this chapter discusses, rather than in this chapter I discuss. However, the critical essays for this school, and for me, for my class, because we are allowing for some creativity and lyricism, the personal voice is absolutely welcome. So I hope that you see that distinction. So it really depends on your audience and what you will be doing with this. If you are looking to publish this critical essay independently in terms of publishing as a creative essay on an online platform or in a journal, personal voice is absolutely valid. If you are looking more for that academic paper submission for a job or school application, impersonal most likely would be preferred. But that's where it really depends on the audience, which school or which job, and many of these, for example, creative writing PhD programs may actually prefer more experimental or lyrical essays. So finding your audience and adapting your critical essay and your abstracts. Abstracts should not be more than 1 paragraph in length. At least, again, I'm speaking again about the Chicago Manual of Style, and cannot contain lists, tables, footnotes, endnotes, graphics, boxed material, and only in special circumstances, they don't really elaborate here, should you use italics, bold, small caps, or superscript, subscript. Not in the abstract. In the essay, yes, not in the abstract. Another thing to keep in mind, this is not the abstract, but something that is often paired with the abstract, are keywords. So this, thinking about the online asynchronous discussion that we had yesterday about trying to describe your project or your manuscript in 1 sentence, then taking the challenge of trying to reduce that even further to 5 to 10 keywords. What this would generally be about themes, maybe types of characters. It depends. So, for example, if I guess I'll just describe the novel I'm writing, which I'm just winging it here, but I could probably come up with 5 to 10 keywords. Toxic masculinity, Vermont, queer. Those are just a few. That's 4. Okay, so moving away from just talking about the abstract now, a few other formatting suggestions for the whole paper about Chicago Manual of Style and MLA formatting that here are a few things to keep in mind. I spoke about citations earlier. The thesis guidelines for the school are suggesting a bibliography. The Chicago Manual of Style, MLA formatting, you may call it something other than bibliography. Notes, works cited, bibliography. You can use a few different labels for that, but generally you would either use the in-text citations, the author date citation, which is in parentheses. I went over this already, but just going over it quickly. Or the notes superscript citation, where you include the superscripted number and then that refers to the notes at the end, the bibliography. Let's see what else. Basics. Any inclusion of figures. So if any of you are including photographs or artwork or tables, it depends on what style of essay you're writing, that those are, if you are ever including anyone else's artwork, of course, or photographs, that you would need to also give credit where it's due and cite those, of course. I guess that's it for today.